Chapter 5. Conicidinks and Siblings. Levi, with his goddamn smirk, stood there, just in front of the still seizing robber. I stared disdainfully at the woman on the ground, then at the man in front of me. "You know I can arrest you right here, right now?" I asked, folding my arms. Levi nodded and put his hands in his pockets.
"Yeah, I know."
He then looked at the still seizing woman.
"But I also know that you don't have any cuffs on you, which means you'll have to take me in physically,"
he continued, turning his gaze to me. Levi easily towered over me. What is it with people towering over me today? I stayed quiet, not having the mental strength to argue with him. I gently touched the now unconscious robber on the ground with my boot. "Is she electric anymore?" I asked, already beginning to bend down.
"No, but she still might shock you,"
Levi replied, stepping back a few paces. You stay put," I commanded, pointing to him. My metal ID badge was still in the robber's hand, and even though they say the electrical charge from being tasered is gone after 5 seconds, I still picked it up cautiously. I've had the taser test. I've also been through childbirth. There wasn't much to choose between. Despite the taser only being agony for 5 seconds, those 5 seconds felt like 5 hours. What kills in the taser test is the pain in your joints, especially the joint between your skull and neck. I had a migraine for 3 days after the test, and it sucked ass. At least childbirth only hurts for an hour or so, totally discounting the contractions. I stood up and faced the other criminal in front of me. I gestured to his suit. "Is there a reason you're dressed up to the nines?" Levi frowned.
"Dressed to the what?"
"Dressed to the nines," I replied. "You know, dressed up, all dolled up." Levi nodded slowly. "Well?" I asked. I just wanted to return to the apartment and remove my shoes. I'd stupidly not broken them in when they were first bought, so they were really uncomfortable.
"I'm going to the theater with some friends."
"In the middle of spring break? You're going to the theatre?" I asked dubiously. "Seems a bit odd," I continued. Levi shrugged, then looked both ways.
"Not really, it's for a friend's birthday."
"Really?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Levi's eyes narrowed slightly, but dangerously. Being without a weapon or any backup, I decided to back off. "What show are you watching?" I asked instead. Levi's eyes stayed narrowed, but his shoulders dropped slightly.
"Just some stupid musical thing, Hammett something."
I snorted. "Hamilton?" He nodded. "Oh, I like that show. I might watch it again at some point," I replied. Levi didn't say anything else. The conversation quickly became awkward. I'm gonna go now," I eventually said, stepping back. "Enjoy Hamilton." I gave a tight-lipped smile, turned around, and walked away. On my way back to the apartment, I bumped, literally, into Clarisse. She fell back with a thud, and I crashed into the wall. Again, what is it with walls today? "Shit, sorry, are you okay?" I reached out to help her up. She smiled, smoothing out her dress.
"Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I wasn't watching where I was going."
She apologized. "Oh, it was nothing. I was in my head too." I waved her off, giving her a once-over. "That's a pretty dress. Where are you off to? Anywhere nice?" Her dress was a deep blue, clinging to her chest, but a white satin belt clung to her tiny waist. It lost any shape at her hips, flowing like water behind. It was beautiful.
"Oh, yeah. I'm off to a jewelry auction with my boyfriend. It's my birthday."
That was a little suspicious. Why was Levi heading to the theatre, but Clarisse to an auction at Tiffany's? Don't get me wrong, it is plausible that the two are genuinely doing separate activities, but then again, they're in the same gang, so it's not that implausible. "Oh yeah? What auction?" I leaned against the wall. Clarisse shrugged.
"I'm not sure. I think it's Tiffany's."
"Uh-huh. How can you not know where you're going?" "Oh, is it a surprise?" I asked, smiling.
"I think so, yeah. It was my birthday yesterday, and I only got the tickets last night.
Have you got any other plans? I asked.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's your birthday, isn't it? Or rather, a birthday celebration. I thought you'd have some other things planned. Clarisse flicked her hair out of her face.
Not really. I mean, we went out for dinner yesterday, and we're going for drinks straight after the auction, so, yeah.
I nodded slowly with a smile. One question, though. Clarisse rolled her eyes and sighed irritably.
Aren't you off duty? Are you allowed to do this?
I can do whatever I want. I'm only chatting with you. Do you see any other FBI or police members here? I gestured to the empty street. And anyway, an FBI agent is never off duty. Not really. She rolled her eyes again.
Fine. What's your question? And hurry, I've got to get going.
I smiled. Why an auction? It doesn't seem like a cool birthday present to go and bid on shit.
First of all, it's not shit. It's rare, if not one-of-a-kind, jewelry that they're bidding tonight. And second, I'm an avid jewelry collector, and have been ever since I can remember.
How do you know that it's rare and one-of-a-kind, Clarisse? I asked. I was deliberately trying to wind her up, I know, but I needed answers, and I wasn't willing to go back and find Levi to do this. He was dangerous, and I was unarmed. I could fight Clarisse in a worst-case scenario.
It's on their website. Plus, I get emails from them as a subscriber.
I raised my eyebrow. Tiffany's do a subscription service? Clarisse licked her lips.
I get email alerts like a subscription service.
I nodded slowly with a frown. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I thought the whole point of auctions was that you don't know what's going to be there, not receive emails saying what's there. Clarisse shook her head.
Some auctioneers do that, but others list what's going to be there so the right people go. Like me.
I nodded slowly. I wasn't going to get anything useful out of her. If she planned this, then chances are she had backups on backups. I glanced at my phone to see the time quickly. If I were much longer, Miller would fly here on a broomstick. It's not my cup of tea, but you do you, I said as I began to walk away.
Stay safe,
Clarisse bid in a sweet voice. I turned with a brief wave, but the tone unsettled me a little. Sweetness only works if you are genuine, and Clarisse did not sound genuine. I finally got back to the apartment a few minutes later. Hey, I'm back, I greeted, letting the door click shut behind me. I kicked my shoes off by the coat rack and walked into the kitchen.
Where the hell have you been?
Miller yelled, storming in from the hallway. Scouting, as I said earlier, I replied, grabbing a strawberry Red Bull from the fridge. It popped open with a hiss.
And?
Not much. I think they're going to the auction at Tiffany's, though, I replied, dropping onto the small sofa. Miller stayed in the kitchen.
What makes you say that?
Well, I don't know. It's a hunch, I answered, swallowing a gulp of the strawberry energy drink.
I'm not heading off to an auction on a hunch. That's ridiculous.
I shrugged. Well, on my way back, I nearly got robbed. Levi tasered him and then I crashed into Clarisse. It's a bit suspicious that two of the members were on the same street, don't you think? I asked.
Wait, you nearly got burgled?
I waved him off. Plus, Levi claimed he was going to watch Hamilton, but Clarisse said she was going to the auction with her boyfriend. At Tiffany's, she thinks. First of all, you'd know where you were going, especially if you were going somewhere as posh as Tiffany's. Secondly, you can't tell me that's just a coinkydink, I continued. He came in and sat next to me, putting his feet on the stool.
Maybe, but even so, how would we get in? I thought auctions like this would require a ticket.
I shrugged and then drank some more of my drink. I could see out the large window a few teens sat on the wall of an opposing apartment. God, it felt weird to call them apartments. They're called flats. Glass bottles lay around their feet as they puffed into the air. Part of me missed being a teenager, without a care in the world. I remember many a time when I was younger, drinking in the local park with some mates. I could never get too wasted, just in case I had a mission come in. 99% of the time, I was the designated driver too. I did nearly get arrested once, though. My friends and I were playing truth, dare or shot. Pretty self-explanatory. You have to do a truth, do a dare, or take a shot. I'd had a rough day at my job at the local clothes shop. I was being given humiliating dares, like singing out loud, diving into a bush, or streaking across the street. So I chose shots instead. Looking back on it, I was entirely at fault. My neighbour, no, not the one who went missing, my other one, was an asshat. She would have parties until 3 in the morning most nights. The nights she didn't, she was in her garden drunk. She bullied me relentlessly at my college, even as I was pregnant with Emily. So what did I do? I stumbled upstairs, ignoring my sleeping mother on the sofa, filled up a bucket of ice-cold water and dumped it on her. She'd screamed, obviously sopping wet. My drunk ass then dropped the bucket on her head as well. She'd call the police, claiming assault and all the rest of it. I only got away with it because it was my first offence and an accident. I stopped drinking in public after that. I came out of my daydream to Miller snapping his fingers.
Hello? Anybody home?
I slapped his hand away. Unfortunately, I replied, downing the rest of my Red Bull.
Whatever. Are we going out or not?
Miller asked, looking out the window as well. He frowned heavily, then twisted his head to me without taking his gaze off of the high teens.
Should I ruin their fun?
I stared for a little while longer, sighing heavily. Nah, let them live, I replied, tapping my empty can.
You know we're FBI, right? We are supposed to stop this stuff.
Yeah, well, I think they're more the police's department rather than ours, I sighed. Plus, are you telling me you didn't do anything a little bit naughty as a teen? I grinned over my Red Bull.
Really? You think I, Robert Miller, longtime server of the FBI, a strong sector of law enforcement, did illegal things as a kid?
I laughed loudly. Nah. I mean, you probably attended fucking... I took a sip of my drink. Sunday school for extra revision or some shit.
Then you truly do not know me, Agent Clarke.
I sat up with a grin and leaned on my arms. Oh, do tell, I whispered.
If you tell me something from your childhood first.
I rolled my eyes with a groan. Man, if I did anything illegal, my mum would have sent me first class to Jesus, I joked. He laughed. There were many occasions when I was in a sticky situation or received a verbal warning. There was the time when I poured water all over my neighbour. Maybe the time I turned myself in at the police station because I drank some wine a few days after my 16th and was wasted. I mean, I once turned myself in for being drunk on wine, I offered.
Why?
I shrugged. I was out for my mate's 16th birthday and we got smashed on her mum's red wine. So we all turned ourselves in for drinking underage. Miller's eyes widened.
Okay, what did the cops do then?
I took another gulp. Nothing except lecture us on alcohol consumption, then drive us back to hers.
But how? Isn't the legal age like 18?
I nodded. Yeah, in public. But you can drink wine from 16 as long as somebody over 18 buys it. And obviously her mum had. Miller laughed loudly.
Seriously?
I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't help the small smile that spread across my face. I tapped the Red Bull can while Miller continued laughing. Okay, laugh a lot. What's your tale then? I could do with a good old chuckle. Miller dramatically wiped a tear away from his eyes before facing me with a grin.
That's going in the book.
He sighed. I copied the motion loudly.
All right. Jesus. Let me think.
I rolled my eyes playfully and took my empty can to the kitchen to rinse and put it in the bin.
Oh yeah, I know. I once got arrested for eating loads of space brownies.
I frowned. What the hell are space brownies? I called through, dumping the can in the bin.
Space brownies? You don't have them?
I shook my head when I came into the room.
Oh, weed. They're brownies infused with weed.
Oh, we just call them pot brownies or hashies. Then it hit me what he'd done. Wait, you did drugs? I shrieked with laughter.
Laugh it up.
Miller did drugs? Oh, the irony. And you laughed at me for getting drunk on wine? Oh my god, how? I finally managed to ask.
Well, I was at a college party with my then-girlfriend, and we'd just sat our exams.
I nodded eagerly. Right. He rolled his eyes.
Christ, I can't believe I'm telling you this. But her brother came by our dorm with some brownies.
I snorted, unable to stop it.
And we ate them.
I gasped. All of them? Miller nodded with a grimace.
Yeah, all of them.
I laughed so much that my stomach began to ache. How many were there? I laughed out. Miller rubbed his neck.
24.
My eyes widened. And how many people?
3, my girlfriend, me, and our best friend.
I cackled. So you had 8? Miller? My eyes were blurry from the tears pouring from my eyes. Oh shit, man. That's brilliant. Thank you for that.
So, how are we getting there?
I don't know. I assume taxi. Most importantly, how are we going to get in? I replied. Miller shrugged. Can't we show our FBI IDs? Because that's what we're doing, technically, I asked, putting my can on the table. It's what we can do in MI5. Miller shrugged, standing up.
I guess so. Can't say I've tried it before, though.
I rubbed my eyes. Sandy's husband might have a suit in his wardrobe. She won't mind. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. He can wear that. I pinched my nose.
And you?
Miller asked, already walking to Sandy's spare room. Huh? I asked.
I said, and you?
Miller shouted. I'll probably find one of Sandy's old outfits to wear. And that I did. Sandy was, in a lot of ways, very different to me. She was taller, curvier, and had bigger breasts. Sandy wore size 20 dresses. I was 5'4" and a size 14. For this very reason, I was worried that nothing would fit. She'd taken a lot of her clothes with her to Vegas, so I was going to be hard-pressed anyway. Luckily, there was a single solitary dress stuffed in the back of her wardrobe. I pulled it out and tried to smooth out the endless creases. It was nothing special, just a simple black dress. It was the same material as pencil skirts, but it felt almost felt on the inside. I slipped it on, but it drowned me in some way. The dress was an 18, so it was way too large. I think it was Sandy's sister-in-law's dress. Sandy didn't really like clingy dresses, so there was no way it was hers. It was a nice fabric, and black made me look good anyway. I grabbed my cardigan and tied it around my waist to keep the dress from moving too much. It'd do for now. I smoothed down any bumps and retied my hair up in a ponytail. I walked into the small bathroom, grabbed my makeup bag from under the sink, and redid my mascara. I winged my eyeliner, applied some red lipstick and sprayed some perfume. I walked out and dodged past Miller, frowning again, what a surprise, as he went into the bathroom, groaning at the scent of my perfume. I'd only bought pencil-heeled shoes on my trip. Don't ask me why, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to chase people, so I had to search for some more appropriate shoes. Sandy, for some bizarre reason, had small feet for her height. They were smaller than mine, and I was a size 6. She had some nice black and beige wedges hidden under her bed that I could squeeze into, nicely complementing my look. I rapped on the bathroom door as I walked by. "Are you ready, Miller? You don't need to do your makeup," I called, tightening the straps up.
Shut up.
I grinned. I do enjoy winding him up. Is that obvious? How stupid of me to think my evening from then on would go well. I'd left a little bit before Miller, announcing that I was going to get us into the auction. He'd grunted, so I took that as an okay. Most of the spring breakers were either in clubs, high off their asses, or passed out on the ground. Not many of them gave me trouble. Not when I displayed my badge. One instance made me chuckle. I walked past some avenue number, humming quietly to myself. I don't get the numbering streets thing. We don't have that in the UK. A few teens were yelling at each other down the bottom, so I paused and waited. It sounded like it was getting quite aggressive. A few racial slurs were thrown at each other and someone was punched. I walked down the alley shouting, "Hey, stop that now." The teens all turned to me, glaring.
"And what are you gonna do?"
The tallest one, a dude, slurred at me, trying to sound tough. "I'm gonna give you very simple options, as I doubt you can do anything more currently," I snapped back. He stumbled, leaning against another dude. 2 girls stood behind, holding an empty bottle of something. Option 1, you all go home quietly. Or option 2, I arrest you. I continued, glaring at them. One of the girls hiccuped and stumbled in front of me.
And what are you Wait.
She paused, hiccuped, then continued.
And who are you?
She asked. I frowned at the strong stench of booze. I'm someone you don't want to upset, I replied, finding my badge from my pocket. I displayed it on show. FBI, Special Agent Clarke, I smirked. They instantly sobered up.
We're so sorry. We'll be going now.
The other girl mumbled, dragging her female friend by the arm. I bit back my laugh. When the girls had left, I turned to the gentleman. And you? My partner is on his way, so I suggest you get going, I commented, putting my badge away.
Okay, we'll go. Hey, thanks for not arresting us.
The seemingly more sober one said. I smiled. Nah, I had my wild days as well. Don't do it again, because you've just violated the law in about 3 different ways. I'd get going before the police come. They won't be as nice, I can promise you that. I answered back and walked out of the alley. I continued on my way down to the theatre, humming some song I heard on the radio earlier. I think it was Call on Me. I don't know, it was the instrumental version, though I vaguely remember my mother playing the song when I was younger. A lot of the teens had gone to the clubs now, leaving the streets oddly quiet. Most shops, aside from foods and drinks, had closed for the night. In the distance, I could see some bright lights where the theatre was, at least according to Google. I prayed that Google was right and headed over. Somewhere, up in the sky, maybe a god was watching me that day. He sat there with his middle finger up, laughing. A few drunk men catcalled me and whistled as I walked by. I ignored them as best as possible, but they followed pretty quickly. I could hear them walking, mumbling to themselves.
Hey, pretty lady!
One of them called, chuckling. I didn't respond.
Hey!
The same man called again. I still didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed my phone out my jacket pocket and was ready to dial Miller's number. I might be FBI, but no woman enjoys being followed or catcalled. Suddenly, someone grabbed my shoulder. I spun around, knocking the hand off of my shoulder. It was some guy I didn't even know. I pushed him into the wall, again, walls, and dug my arm into his throat. Who the hell do you think you are to whistle at me like I'm an animal? I hissed, pressing into his throat more. The guy, obviously, didn't say anything. Someone else grabbed my waist and pulled me back. I kicked and screamed, but they didn't stop, and nobody came to help. Get off of me! I yelled, kicking backwards. I must have hit his balls as he groaned loudly and dropped me. I spun around, kicking his knee and making him drop to the ground. I turned to the other guy, ready to hit him, but he was already out cold. I didn't push on his throat that hard, did I? I answered my question when Jack walked out of the dark of the alley. I laughed bitterly. Oh, hell no. You can't play the doting big brother now, Jack. I'm not interested, I said straight away. Jack held up his hands.
I'm not trying to. I was simply doing my job.
I scoffed. Saving the damsel in distress? Jack rolled his eyes.
You're welcome.
I stared at him. What? I stuttered. You're welcome? You're welcome, I yelled. Jack stared at me, hands in his pockets. I'm fully capable of looking after myself, thank you, I snapped, grabbing my phone off the ground.
Clearly, seeing as you were nearly sexually assaulted.
Fuck you, Jack. I can't control what scumbag men do. Now leave me alone and get out of my life, I yelled.
Or what?
I will arrest you right here, right now, on suspicion of theft, I snapped.
Theft of what?
I scoffed. Don't bullshit me and tell me you just happened to be in Miami when Tiffany's is hosting an auction. At the same time as Levi and Clarisse? Respect me enough not to lie to me, I sneered.
Maybe I just wanted to see you,
he quietly said. I growled, squeezing my hands. If I didn't, I was genuinely going to lump him. You, I yelled, have had how many years to come and see me? I stormed towards him, jabbing my finger into his chest. You were the one who stopped, I screamed, losing my temper. Jack didn't do or say anything. He just took it. Somehow that was worse than him trying to defend himself. Say something, I screamed. A few people stopped to watch the exchange. I spun around, glaring. No show here. Move along, I snapped. I felt a bit bad. They were innocent people just watching an argument. I was guilty of this crime myself, but I was seeing red. I wasn't thinking clearly.
Maybe we should take this reunion somewhere else?
A new voice spoke from behind. I instantly knew who it was. Thanks for the input, Levi, but I'm fine, I snapped, glaring at my older brother. I pointed at him. You. Do not speak to me ever again if you don't want to be in jail, I snapped. I ignored the slightly hurt look in his eyes. He shouldn't have treated me like that. I gave Levi a once-over, far too angry to realise that he was in the same area as Jack, spun around and stalked the rest of the way to the theatre.